You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, Episode 17. This week on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, we're going to continue the duck profile segment, and we're going to feature the pintail. And then we're also going to be joined by the guys from Heartland Waterfowl as we talk about the premiere of their Season 2 on the Outdoor Channel. Welcome to the 17th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Palm, joined by my co-host, as always, Dan Harushka. Dan, what's up?
17. I got here pretty quick. I don't know. It just seems like we started not that long ago.
Yeah, you know, that's true. Every week when we get ready to record this thing, I got to remind myself and ask him, like, what episode are we at this year or this week? And 17 has certainly seemed to creep up on me, such as the Christmas holiday that we're quickly approaching here. But before we get into any further, a couple housekeeping items here. If you'd like to reach out to us here at the show and chat with us about questions or comments that you might have, we got a lot of ways to do that. You can touch base with us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also hit up our website, hpoutdoors.com. If you'd like to send us an email directly, you can reach us at info@hpoutdoors.com. Over the last couple episodes, we've talked about the newsletter that we're going to be putting together and going to start sending out here on occasion. If you'd like to sign up for that, you can do so on our website, on the podcast page, and you can also do so through our Facebook page as well. And then last week, we talked about the listener survey that we've put together, you know, just to kind of give you guys an opportunity to give us some feedback and share some of your comments and ideas with us. You can also find that on our Facebook page and website as well. So if you guys haven't taken advantage of those opportunities, we certainly encourage you to do so. And then finally, if you'd like to reach us via telephone, you can do so on the HP Outdoors Waterfowl hotline at 724-609-FOWL, 724-609-3695. So Dan, this week, kind of a hectic week, you know, for everybody as we quickly are approaching the Christmas holiday. And, you know, for me, one of the things that I really, really dislike about Christmas is actually getting out and doing my shopping. I kind of put it off, as I'd mentioned last week. Just got back from Jamaica. So, you know, it's just utter chaos right now, and I've got virtually no Christmas shopping done. So pretty much getting ready to check into panic mode here for a day or two to try to get some stuff knocked out. How's your shopping coming along?
I hate shopping as well. And we actually had a babysitter come over, and the wife and I got out and got some shopping done. I still have to shop for the wife, but she took care of all the family stuff this year on Cyber Monday, actually, which was the first time we really participated in that. But there's some really good deals. So, I mean, we tore that up for a little bit, and yeah, I hate crowds. I hate shopping in general. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have shopping to do, and it always seems overwhelming to me. So I'm not a huge fan.
My wife is like, Black Friday is like her Super Bowl. I mean, she, you know, it used to be she's big time into the Black Friday thing, but now, I mean, our Thanksgiving dinner, it revolves around what time Target opens or whatever store she's got, you know, her eye on the deal. So she's out at, you know, 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and, you know, she goes with some of the neighbor, you know, girlfriends that she's got, and she pretty much knocks out all the family stuff in that day or two of shopping. So I'm virtually not involved in any of that. So, I get some stuff for my son and for my family and that kind of thing, but you know, my main responsibility is getting something for her somewhere along the line. And, so I'm still working on that a little bit, but, what's Danimal going to ask Santa Claus to put under the tree for you this year? Any kind of waterfowl gear that you've got your eye on?
You know, we were talking before we started, and, one of my go-tos is a new lens for the camera this year. And I always have a couple waterfowl items on there. This year it's probably going to be some clothing items, maybe a few decoys, but we'll have to see. I tell you what, it's the first year that my twin girls will be able to really rip into some presents, so I'm more excited for that than anything else. How about you? What do you got lined up?
I'm a really tough one to Christmas shop for, and the reason for that is because when I get pretty much an itch for something that I want, I usually just buy it. So a lot of times my wife will be like, "Well, that can be your Christmas present." And I'm like, "Well, if I get it at the end of December, it's kind of late in the game for what I'm trying to do with it. So how about I just buy in September and we forget that ever happened?" But so this year I've essentially bought and set up an entire diver rig. I've bought some new camo and clothes and stuff like that. So I've been pretty pretty busy in that regard. So I'm probably not going to really ask for a whole lot, but I would like to add some more decoys to my goose spread. I'd like to beef up on some silhouettes. Don't know if that's going to happen at Christmas time or not, but I've got my eye on a couple calls that I'd like to try out and a little bit more camo and stuff. But just sort of the normal. I probably need some new cold weather socks and things like that. But like you, my son is a little ahead of your girls, and this for him will be the first year where he is truly, truly fired up about what he's getting. And when we're watching TV, every commercial that comes on, he says, "I want one of those. I want one of those." So,
oh man,
you're
in for it.
So he'll be excited when some of those things show up beneath the tree that Santa Claus brings him, and it's going to be fun. So, and it won't be long. I'll be starting to buy him some waterfowl stuff too. So, I'll have fun doing that. But, okay, on to waterfowl related topics here. This week we're going to profile the pintail, and you and I have both had sort of our maiden voyages with pintails this year, which is kind of cool. And the pintail is one of those, like, I don't know if iconic is the word, but it's just one of those majestic ducks where you see it and it's got some really unique characteristics and some really cool things. And it's just an absolute beautiful duck. And it's one of those things that, the first time I held one in my hand in person, it just, reaffirmed to me why I love waterfowl hunting so much. It's just every bird has its own story and every bird is just so unique in its own way. And the pintail is certainly, no different in that regard. So I've been looking forward to talking about the pintail, and I don't see any reason why we should wait any longer. We should just go ahead and get into it. What do you think?
Yeah, I tell you, it was the first time when I shot my pintail this year, the first time when I could say that I actually got a buck fever, if you will, over a bird, because I knew right away what it was, and it was my first opportunity ever to shoot one. So, I mean, we don't, how often they come around here. It's not very often at all. So, it got the blood pumping a little bit, and it was definitely fun. And like you said, waterfowl just keeps drawing you in every time. Every hunt, there's something new that just keeps you coming back. So, yeah, let's talk about pintails a little bit.
Well, before we get into it, you remind me of a story when I shot my pintail earlier this year, and I posted it on Facebook. And when I was hunting with my buddy Carlos, and I shot that duck, we hadn't seen many pintails at all. So, I shot the duck, and it went down, and we couldn't really see it when it was down. But I told my buddy Carlos, I said, I don't want to sound like an idiot here, and that was probably a mallard or something. But I said, don't be shocked if when I go fetch that duck up that it's a pintail drake. And he's like, get out of here. He thought I was crazy. I said, you know what? You're probably right. It's probably something else. But I said, I just want to be on the record right now, just in case. And sure enough, we get out there and fetch it up, and it was that pintail drake. And, I literally, kind of like you said, I just literally sat there for a moment, just looking at it and kind of silence and just thinking about, replaying that shot, and just kind of how that's something that I'll always remember. And, I wish I could say that I remember all of the first, the first species of every duck that I've taken, but certainly this year, the two that I've taken, the canvasback and the pintail, are both going to be two that I will definitely never forget. So let's go ahead and get into our profile segment here and feature the pintail.
All right, the pintail, also known as the Northern Pintail, the males come in at about 25 inches and the females at 21 and a half about. The males are a little over 2 pounds and the females are just under that. They are known as the greyhound of the air, and that is because they're long and slender ducks with long, narrow wings, and that's how they got that nickname. The pintails are named for their elongated central tail feathers, which end up being about a quarter of the drake's body length. And the Northern Pintails have a chocolate brown head with a white stripe on each side of the neck. They have a white breast and belly. And the back is a blackish gray, and the rump has a white patch on each side. 2 of the long central tail feathers are black, while the others are gray and white. And in flight, there's an iridescent greenish-black speculum is displayed. The bill is a blue-gray with a black stripe along the center to the tip, and the legs and feet are slate gray. And the male has a mellow whistled quee sound, quee, quee. And the females have a dark brown upper body, a gray head, and a gray lower body. And the speculum is a dull brown or a bronzish color. And the bill is blue-gray, blotched with black, and the legs and feet are slate gray. And they actually make more of a quack sound, the females do. And with breeding, the females lay an average of 8 eggs, and they have a circumpolar breeding pattern. In North America, they breed from Alaska, the central Canadian Arctic, and western Greenland, and they nest in open areas near seasonal and semi-permanent wetlands. There you go.
Okay, let's talk about the migration and the wintering for the pintail. The pintail is one of the first ducks to sort of migrate south in the fall and north in the spring. Actually, over about half of the population of pintails in North America migrate through California. So a lot of the, mass of the birds will winter in areas along the Central Valley, of California, will continue all the way down to the coast of Mexico. And, many pintails will also use the central flyway in winter in the Texas Panhandle and on the Gulf Coast of Texas and western Louisiana. As far as their food, they're dabbling ducks, and they sort of feed on seeds and, sort of aquatic plants and things like that. And they also take advantage of, excessive grain waste and things like that. One concerning area actually with the pintail is, the bird was actually one of the most abundant ducks in North America, but they've suffered a really decline since essentially the 1950s. In 2009, the population was estimated at approximately 3.2 million birds, which is really below the projected plan of essentially 5.5 million birds at the time. So, more than maybe any other species of duck in North America, the pintail has really suffered from, persistent drought conditions and the loss of grasslands and habitat in the prairie pothole region. In 2013, the population survey estimated the pintail at 3.3 million birds. And then in 2014, they were estimated at 3.2 million. So a decline of 3%, and actually a 20% below the long-term average for the pintail. So, 3.2 million birds is still a lot of birds, but, you don't like to see the population number sort of in decline in that fashion. And, it's one of those things that, the reason why the prairie pothole region is a focus of Ducks Unlimited and Delta Waterfowl and those organizations is, birds like the pintail depend on quality habitat in that area to be able to, to breed and, get healthy for the flight down south for the fall. So there you have it, the profile for the Northern Pintail. Okay, Dan, this episode is actually one of my favorites because we had a chance to talk with you know, a couple guys that are they're good guys, they're great hunters, and they put out a really great product. Of course, I'm talking about the guys from Heartland Waterfowl. We had a chance to talk with Logan Burdett and Ronnie Phillips about the upcoming season 2 of Heartland Waterfowl. Going to premiere on December 29th at 8:30 on the Outdoor Channel, and you'll be able to catch their show every Monday at 8:30 on the Outdoor Channel. And you know, when we talked with them, you know, we wanted to preview the season that they have upcoming and talk about, you know, their initial season that they had last year. And for anyone that's seen the show, you know, we're not telling anything you don't already know, but you know, the content that they put together is great. Great video, great storylines, hunting in, you know, some of the best areas in the country, that kind of thing, Canada. But we wanted to sort of ask them not only that kind of stuff, but, you know, get some tips and some techniques. I mean, hunting under pressure, you know, for a TV show where you've got multiple guys in the field, got to get everybody hidden. You know, you can't control the weather, you can't control the conditions, but you still got to get, you know, you still got to get it done. And, you know, I think that that's something that we kind of reinforced throughout the entire interview is, you know, those sort of tips and techniques and stuff. So I think that there's going to be a lot about this interview that not only will help you understand and get you excited for the upcoming season, but also give you some tips and techniques that you can apply, you know, in your hunting situation, you know, wherever you may be. So this is probably one of my favorite interviews that we've had this so far here. Dan, what do you think?
I would agree with you. And I tell you what, for guys that are on a national level and can just be, you know, they could be big headed and whatnot. These are some of the most down to earth guys. And I wasn't sure what to expect coming into it, but I tell you what, I felt right at home talking to them. You know, they're ripping on each other, ripping on us. Like it was a great conversation. And, you know, we have some good points in here. So I'm excited for our listeners to be able to, you know, chime in here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And, you know, just to echo what you said, you know, you meet, you know, through this podcast, we've met a lot of people, and, you know, talking with these two guys has probably been some of my favorite just because they're so down to earth, so easy to talk to. And you can just tell that they enjoy hunting waterfowl, and, you know, they do it, you know, although they're on the TV and, you know, that they're, you know, there's a business side to it for them. You know, they do it for a lot of the same reasons that you and I and everyone listening to this show does it. You know, they enjoy being outdoors. They enjoy spending times with their buddies in the field, you know, and they enjoy having successful hunts. So, I think a lot of that will come through, you know, in this interview. And, let's go ahead and just roll right into that and, you know, be joined by the guys from Heartland Waterfowl. All right, we'd like to welcome two very special guests to the show this week. It is Logan Burdett and Ronnie Phillips of Heartland Waterfowl. They are getting ready to premiere season 2 of Heartland Waterfowl on the Outdoor Channel. That's going to come out to you on December 29th at 8:30. Ron and Logan, how are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Hey,
I'm doing great. I was waiting for Logan to answer first.
the ultimate gentleman, I can tell. But guys,
That's
we're
right.
excited to have you on the show. You know, a lot of us watched season 1 of your TV show, and you know, obviously you bring a different approach, a different style to what we're accustomed to seeing, and not just outdoor television, but waterfowl specifically. So we're excited to see what you guys have planned for us in season 2, and talk with you a little bit today about, you know, some of the things that we can expect, and sort of reflect back a little bit maybe on season 1 and some of the hunts you guys had there. But we wanted to kind of start off the show here with you know, when you're out on the road and you're recording a show and it's your first season, there's a lot of, you know, sort of learning curve, I got to assume, with that, and, you know, all the gear and the equipment and things that go into making that all happen. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you learned during season 1 while filming this show. And, you know, particularly, you know, what did you learn about hunting waterfowl that you might not have, you know, thought about or maybe paid too much attention to kind of before you started doing it, you know, on camera?
Well, I can tell you that the first thing I learned about when we first started filming is that being out on the road with these guys for 5 to 7 days straight is a struggle, and you end up hating each other at the end. No, actually, it's a complete joke. Logan and I, when we first got together and talked about the idea of branching off and being a product of Heartland Bowhunter, and that we probably ought to make sure that we come forth and mention that first, is that this all kind of came about through the inspiration of Heartland Bowhunter that had been on the air and done very well 5 years prior to us launching Heartland Waterfowl. And so Logan and I got together and just started hunting together, filming together. And we actually filmed and did this for like 2 years before we even launched anything on television. There was certainly a learning curve. There was a lot of struggles. There was finding ways. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we were trying to figure out was we knew how to hide ourselves when we were out hunting, but how are we going to hide this camera? What are we going to do with this camera? And, that was a little bit of a struggle at first, but you get creative and innovative and find new ways to, put yourself in the best situation possible. But it was basically just surrounding ourselves around a bunch of good guys. That's kind of the whole thing about Heartland Waterfowl that I take a lot of pride in, is that we're all a bunch of genuine guys who've got a strong passion about hunting waterfowl. Some have more experience than others. Some play different roles. Some have better camera experience or more strong. That's their strong suit is running the camera. But the cool thing about this whole group is that they're a bunch of humble guys who are all on the same team, that collectively are on the same mission. Not any one person being bigger than the other, just to put out a sincere, genuine waterfowl hunting experience and telling that story creatively through the lens of the camera.
Yeah, and I can expand on that a little bit. I grew up with Mike and Sean. I've hunted with them. Bow hunted, deer hunted, whatever. I've done so much of different stuff with those guys, and they really, obviously, they taught me the way. I grew up filming with those guys when I was young, and the biggest challenge, I think, for me was when we started this was, how do we, if Outdoor Channel wants us to air in January, how do we film our episodes starting in, our season down here in Missouri doesn't start till October. How do you make those episodes work when you got to submit them to the Outdoor Channel in January? So the biggest struggle was we got to go to where the birds are, because there's not any birds down here at that point in time. It's hit or miss depending on year to year based on the weather. But so we had to start planning our trips, and I've been to Canada before. I've traveled to numerous different states. And so, collectively, Ronnie and I obviously got together and we're like, all right, we got to put together a game plan. And like Ronnie said before, we did this for 2 years before we even had anything in the works. And it was a struggle at first. Last year, it was probably the easiest year. And this year, it's been 10 times easier than it was last year. It gets better every year. But our first year was atrocious. I think Ronnie could relate to that. It was just a disaster.
This is something you wouldn't even want to put on YouTube.
Yeah. We did this stuff, and we're like looking at each other the other day, and we're like, man, I don't know if this is even possible. It's just filming waterfowl is so much different than sitting up in a tree and deer hunting. Granted, you have so much more diversity. You have so much other stuff that you can capture other than just sitting in a tree, but you're filming a moving object that you don't necessarily know what's going to do at any certain point in time. And getting good at that and finding people that are good at that is a difficult thing to do. And it takes a lot of time and practice to be able to do that and produce it at a quality level that Heartland Bowhunter is looking for us to produce it at. And they obviously have, made, to a lot of people, they have changed the way that people watch outdoor television. And they obviously don't want us to produce something that is mediocre in quality. And at that time, was on their 5th season already, and we're just kind of starting and picking up, where they left off basically. And they wanted us to pick up on a season 5 level where we're really on a season 1 level. So you can kind of understand where the big gap is and where we were standing, and then, getting feedback from them, and then looking at each other like, I don't know that this is even going to happen. So there was a lot of struggle those first 2 years, and making sure that, we were going to be up to par, so to speak, of, the Heartland Bowhunter name, and be able to represent that brand, the best way possible.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine the pressure that you were under, one from, the Outdoor Channel to have those episodes so fast, And on the other hand, from, Mike and Sean over there, that, like you said, they're just innovative and pretty much changed the whole way that you look at hunting shows in general. So, I mean, that's a ton of weight on your shoulders there for sure.
There was a lot of weight, but there was also a lot of security that came with being a part of that brand. We call it the Heartland brand. Like Logan alluded to, while a lot of shows, when they're coming out with their first year, they get to use that, well, we're a first year show excuse. Well, when we're coming out and we're a product of a fifth year show that has already set the bar and set the standard to quality in outdoor television, we had to meet their level. We had to be uniform or consistent with what they were already doing. But on the same point, there's also a lot of struggles that come out for first year shows when they're out there trying to launch a brand, launch a name. They got no identity. They got nothing really. They just got a logo and a host, and they say they're going to go out and film this stuff, and they're hoping sponsors will come on board. Well, it was nice for us. It was helpful for us that we were partnered with such a credible team with Heartland Bowhunter. And we had we were able to, we were able to use that credibility to help us get launched and put ourselves in the best position possible. So there were pros and there were cons, and it was a struggle, but the main struggle was definitely meeting those standards of field production.
Well, you guys are, definitely making the most of a great opportunity there. But let me get into it a little bit here. You guys go from, Texas to Canada to New York, and, you said you have to go to where the birds are. How many states do you typically hunt? And tell me what your favorite state is.
Typically, we start out with the early season geese, and that usually consists of North Dakota, New York. Our New York trip has never failed us, and it's just a fun time. And it's a great state, and everybody kind of thinks it's just like a concrete jungle. And, it's just a big New York City, but you get up in the northern end of New York and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's something that, when I first went up there to spring snow goose hunt, I didn't really know what to expect. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is totally different than what I was ever thinking in the first place. But we travel around all over, North Dakota, New York, Canada, South Dakota. We stick kind of as close as we possibly can to get into the birds. We really like to hunt Kansas. We obviously like to hunt our home state of Missouri. We're going down to Mississippi next week. We've hunted Texas, Arkansas. I mean, you name it. We're trying to hunt all over. And part of the reason we like to hunt all over is we like to give the viewer, a different experience. You can only shoot a duck and a goose so many times before it kind of gets repetitive. So, us trying to give us the viewer a different look on TV every week. So if we're shooting snow geese one week, we're shooting mallards one week, we're shooting teal and gadwalls one week, we're shooting Canada geese one week. We're really just trying to obviously diverse ourselves each week and to trying to change it up so the viewer's not seeing a repetition of over and over the same thing going on. And obviously with us having to turn those episodes around in such a short period of time, you have to go where the birds are. And that means starting our season in August and going and shooting geese up in North Dakota, middle of August when we're wearing short sleeves and sweating and being stung by mosquitoes all morning long. So
can relate to that.
It's just kind of different, but it's, it's fun. But at the end of the day, it's kind of what you kind of have to do in order to put yourself in the position so you don't get behind come January.
So what do you have a favorite state to hunt?
That's tough. That's really tough. I mean, I'm a big snow goose guy, so I really like to go to Canada just because you get the juvies and you get a lot of the new birds. And if you get into the right feed of juvies, I mean, it's game over with, and it's a lot of fun. And you can have some unbelievable hunts up there that a lot of people will never get to experience. And I can remember our first trip up to Canada as a team together. Me and Ronnie found this field. It was just right off the roost. And I told Ronnie we found it. And I was like, Ronnie, this is either going to be unbelievable or it's not going to be very good. There's no going to be any median there in the middle. And he's like, all right, well, let's give it a try. And we gave it a try, and we shot our 6-man limit, 120 snow geese in 45 minutes.
And I mean, you're just like, this is insane, you know? It's
today still the best waterfowl hunt I've ever been on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're just like, I don't know that we can ever do this again. But as far as the best state personally for me, I mean, it's unbelievable if you hit it right, and it's all about timing. But if you hit it right, it's good. And then, I mean, it's all about timing where the birds are. I mean, if you get into the right state at the right time, it can be really good. Like, we've had some unbelievable hunts up in New York as well. We've had some unbelievable hunts in Kansas. I mean, but for me, I love snow geese, and to go shoot the snow geese at the right point in time, Canada's where it's at.
Yeah, Canada's pretty amazing. I'm not as in love. Actually, I'm not in love at all with snow geese. It's kind of an ongoing joke with our team. But I enjoy setting up on snow geese when we're in Canada, like you said, or like Logan said, with the, you know, they're so uneducated, and you get into those big feeds of 40, 50,000 juvies, and it's just, you can hammer the heck out of them, and you can get in and out of it. I think this last trip we shot a 6-man limit in 2 hours. I mean, it was just incredible. You know, so, and plus the scenery, the people up there are incredibly friendly. It's just a whole nother experience to go up north of the border. And plus you get to do a few ducks and maybe a few hunkers from time to time, you know, when we go up there, but it is a pretty incredible experience. But I'm more of a mallard guy myself. I love shooting greenheads. North Dakota seems to have presented its biggest challenges for us over the last 2 years. But when you can get set up, on a solid wheat field, barley field, pea field. I love shooting ducks over a pea field. It's just the most incredible feeling for me personally. Plus, you know, I grew up in the state of Kansas, and we're here in the Kansas City area, so we get kind of toggle back and forth between the two states. And, you know, there's just something about hunting at home, and we got experience. That's where you learned everything. It's what you know. And so, I personally, I love shooting duck in North Dakota, but I always love coming back on my route also.
Yeah, I can agree that there's nothing like hunting at home. But let me piggyback off that a little bit. And you know, there's some of our listeners, they just ask us, you know, if they're planning to go out of state. So what kind of checklist do you guys put together as far as, you know, making sure that you're up on your licenses, regulations, you know, anything dealing with that? And as far as equipment, like, you know, do you just have one main checklist that you always go through when you're traveling, or how do you guys prepare for, you know, your trips?
We always forget something. No, as far as the checklist is concerned, we don't necessarily, I mean, it's kind of, when you've been doing it for a while, it kind of becomes repetitive, and you just kind of know that when you go to North Dakota, this is what you need. When you go to Canada, this is what you need. And so it's kind of, after a while, it's just kind of a no-brainer. I don't know, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that, Logan.
Yeah, I would just say, kind of like Ronnie said, you know, we kind of just get in a routine of how we handle things. I typically just take care of all the licenses for everybody. And the reason being is just because we can have them all in one central spot. You know, if we have a game warden come out and check us, then, you know, I have them all. I know I have them all, and I can hand them all to him. I keep them in my behind bag. So if he walks out in the middle of the field, you know, here you go. But I mean, as far as, you know, what to take, you know, we've obviously been hunting the same spots, same states, you know, over and over again, for 2 or 3 years now. So we've kind of gotten in a routine of what we do, but, for some reason, we always pack heavy too. So we take 10 times more than we usually need. And, you know, we started out with, you know, a 12-foot trailer, and then I bought a 16-foot trailer. Now we got a 20-foot trailer. And if we could haul a semi around with a 50-foot trailer, I think it would be safe to say that Brian Crum, one of the guys on our team, would be perfectly fine with that, because, you know, we have so much stuff we want to keep, but it's not necessary. Like, you don't need it all. You could go out and do just as well as, you know, so some guy could go out with 2 dozen decoys and do just as good as we do with 10 dozen decoys, or whatever the case may be. to kind of get off topic a little bit, I mean, what it boils down to is finding where the birds are. Wherever you're at is finding exactly where the birds are and finding the birds that want to cooperate. And once you do that, then you're setting yourself up for success. And that's basically kind of what we pride ourselves on. We get to the area, we get there a couple days early, and before we even think about hunting, we spend, a day or two driving around making sure that we find what we want to find and what we want to hunt, and making sure that they cooperate. If if we have a bad hunt that first day, we go find a new set of birds. We go to a completely different area and we find other birds that want to cooperate and want to have a good time with us while we're there. Without a doubt. And Logan really nailed it on the head. When it comes to the scouting, we really put a lot of pride into investing a lot of time in scouting and not just scouting, like not just rolling up on a field and saying, oh, there's 8,000 mallards, that's where we're hunting tomorrow. It's actually sitting there, watching them, glassing them, evaluating their behaviors. When are they feeding? When are they going to water? When are they bouncing from a loaf to a feed to a roost? What are they doing? What are their behaviors? And really just analyzing the entire behavior of that concentration of birds, as opposed to just, oh, well, there's a bunch of birds there, so if we show up and set up, they're just going to do it right. Well, not always, but if you put the time and the effort into actually evaluating what those birds are doing, you're setting yourself up for better success.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we did a scouting episode, a whole hour discussion just talking about scouting and different elements. And one of the things that we really kind of reinforced that it's not just about finding where birds are, but it's about finding out why they're there and what is it that they're there to, are they eating a certain something, or does that field offer them a certain level of, security or whatever the case might be. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And, that's something that we always talk about here. And, you've talked about a couple different times, the pressures of getting on birds and, deadlines and that kind of stuff. And, you guys aren't immune to, bad weather, poor flight conditions, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to kind of parallel it for the normal guy. So, you guys are under pressure because you've got deadlines to meet, and you've got a lot, at stake with the show, where the normal guy, they're under pressure because, they're probably working Monday through Friday, and they may only get 1 or 2 days a week to get out in the field. So they want to make sure that they maximize their time out in the field and not, just laying out in a, blind and not seeing any birds. So there's a pressure built in there for, the average guy to have a successful hunt when they get the, handful of opportunities to get out there. So what are some techniques that you guys use when you're on the road, other than just picking up and driving, however far away? Are there any techniques that, a normal guy could also use that when the going gets tough and, the birds are giving you a hard time, kind of go-to techniques and tactics that you try to employ to get you a little bit of success, even though the deck's stacked against you, so to speak?
Well, I would say, last year you're talking about weather. Last year, this year we've been really, really fortunate. Last year, I would say 4 of our 8 or 9 trips we had rain on almost the entire time. So, that puts a lot of pressure on you. It's not ideal conditions for anything. But as far as like go-to tactics, if we're in a new area or we're in an area that we've been in, whatever state it is that we know, and things just aren't going right. For instance, I can kind of relate to North Dakota. We struggled in North Dakota this year. We were there for 2 weeks, and it was tough. It was very, very tough the first week. And we kind of just went back to the big water. We went and found big water and tried to find where the biggest concentration of birds were, whether that be big water or be some hidden slough down in a valley. We use a lot of aerial maps to do that. Scout Look Weather is one of our sponsors, and the year before that, we pinned exactly where we were finding all these birds in the fields that we hunted. And when we first got up there, we're searching, trying to find birds, and we just weren't having any luck. And literally, it dawned on us the second day. We're like, we need to go back to what we were doing last year. So we pulled up our Scout Look Weather, and basically it's just a GPS pin of where we drop pins of where we found birds. Even if we didn't hunt those fields, we find birds, we pin them, and you drop a pin on them, and it, obviously you can make a little statement saying, oh, there was 300 geese in this field, or there was 50 birds in this field, there was, a couple thousand ducks and geese on this pothole, or
on this big body of water, whatever the case may be, is having, you know, being able to go back and look at what you did the year before. If it's an area that you know, is a huge thing for us that we look at. We also use log books and log every hunt that we do. So when we get done out of the field, we log that hunt saying, all right, we shot 16 ducks this morning and 14 geese. We were at this location. We hunted out of a cornfield. It was cloudy skies. The wind was blowing 10 miles an hour out of the northeast. It was 32 degrees. And we really relate to the stuff that we did the year before and the conditions we were at the year before. And that really helps us for the upcoming years. And when you're able to do that, you can see a lot of consistency with the general areas that you're at. Now, if you're in a new area, the biggest thing that we do is, like I said, we look for the big bodies of water and find the biggest concentration of birds that we possibly can. But if you're in an area that you're in over and over each year, usually there at the same time, kind of like we are with our scheduled trips, we just look for those patterns and kind of go off what we've done the year before. And it seems to be working out with us. Obviously, you got to change things up. Not everything's going to be exactly the same. Obviously, the same fields that you hunted the year before are probably going to be rotated crops. But for the most part, you can get into the general area and find that concentration of birds, whether they may be 5 miles south on a bigger body of water or 5 miles north. But you can usually look at what you did the year before and keep track of that and, you know, put yourself in a successful position to, you know, have a good hunt for, you know, whenever the case may be when you want to go out and hunt.
Yeah, I really like the logbook idea, and that's actually something that I do as well because I hunt. You know, it's not a public body, but it's a lottery type system where you got to jump through a couple hoops, but essentially anybody can get involved. And just like you were saying, every time I hunt a blind, I mark the number I was in, the weather, what kind of birds I saw, what times were the flights, all of that kind of stuff, because I do exactly what you're saying. I look back over my notes and, I try to look at the weather as the upcoming weekend and, what I experienced, in past that was similar to that. So I think that's a really good thing that a lot of guys can very easily implement into their hunting schedules throughout the year, so they can help when the time gets tough to sort of fall back on that, things that they've had success on in the past. Another thing that is important about having success on a continued basis, and Ronnie, you mentioned this earlier, is concealment. And, you talked about trying to figure out how to hide the camera. And that's something that I always wonder about when I see you guys on TV and you got, 5, 6 guys, 7 guys, whatever it is in the field, and, you got cameras and you got dogs and you got all that stuff out there. How do you guys find ways to stay hidden and stay concealed? I mean, I feel like I get picked off half the time. There's like 3 or 4 of us in the field. And I know you mentioned that you come up with some innovative ways and things like that. So I'd love to hear you share a little bit of that with us, and, maybe some of those techniques that we could use as, in our setups in the field as well.
He's wanting to steal all of our secrets, Logan.
A borrow, maybe?
Borrow. I like that word a lot better. I would say once you find the birds, 90% of the battle after that is hiding, for us anyways, just because, like you said, we have so much. We got a dog. We have usually six guys hunting with us. We got 2, 3 camera guys running. And we usually get out there early. If the farmer that we have permission on the field, if he lets us dig in, we're going to try to dig in. And basically we use, depending on the field we're in, obviously, like, for instance, like Canada, you can get away with a little bit more just because you're up in Canada. Wheat fields up there, obviously want to find a low depression in the field or the side of a hill, something along those lines. But you're usually a little bit more lenient up there. You can get away with more stuff. Up in New York, for instance, there's a lot of alfalfa fields that the birds like to hide in up there, or not hide in. The birds like to feed in up in the alfalfa fields because none of the cornfields are cut yet. But for some reason, all the farmers right up next to an alfalfa field, they plant a standing cornfield that hasn't been cut yet. So you can go stand in the standing corn. And obviously that's the easy situations. The hard stuff is, being down here in Missouri, North Dakota, Kansas, the low cut cornfields, that type of stuff. And then you have to try to find, like I said, a low depression, maybe a terrace to hide on, dig in if possible. We love fence rows just because
we can hide all those guys. It's a lot easier to conceal yourself. And even if you're off the X a little bit, so to say, we would rather be off the X a tad and have our luck of trying to pull those birds to us and be hidden versus sitting out in the middle of the field and sticking out like a sore thumb. And that's just kind of, if I was not filming it, I don't know that I would necessarily want it to be that way. I always want to be on the X if I can, but I would much rather be off the X a little bit, be totally hitting 100% than be on the X 100% and be only hidden 75%. So, yeah. The only thing I would add to that was, when we first started filming our first year, we were using a big Sony AX2000, much bigger camera. And as crazy as it may say, we were coming up with more excuses on why we couldn't hide than why we could hide. And that was just part of being first-year filmers and not really know what we were doing. We were irritated. We were frustrated. Why can't we get these birds to finish because of this camera? And so with that being said, excuse me, you just start becoming, I know it sounds silly, but you kind of just turn your mindset. Instead of finding ways that you can't do something, find a way that you can do it. Maybe it means that you're using a different camera. Maybe it means that you're tucking a little bit lower. Maybe it means that you're going to film in a way that is not comfortable physically. Maybe you're laying on your side in the blind. Maybe you are, I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, Logan, but one time we were hunting in Kansas and we had a layout blind that we took all the frames out of, we stubbled it in, and instead of the person laying on their back, they were actually laying on their belly, filming out the foot back. We haven't used that technique a lot, but that was one opportunity, or that was one time where we changed it up a little bit. We were finding ways and trying to get creative in ways that we can remain hidden and capture the footage we want. It wasn't the most comfortable thing for us to do physically, but did we get the footage? Yeah, and ultimately that's what we're out there to do. That's the thing. You got to make sacrifices when you're filming for TV, and the worst thing is, like, Ronnie's obviously got the business side. He loves hunting and everything, but I want to go out there and I want to kill as many as I can possibly legally kill that day. And you have to sacrifice that when you're filming for TV. You got to realize that, if you got to get this shot and there's 6 geese decoying, then you got to take the time to get that shot. And, it's not fun sometimes, but you just got to realize what's going on. And there's a lot of times that you got to sacrifice when it comes back to the filming aspect. You got to sacrifice what you're going to do on a daily basis of what you normally wouldn't do on a daily basis when you're not filming. Meaning, you got to set up 2 more blinds, or you got to set up 2 more camera guys. That's obviously sticking out that normally wouldn't be there. And you got to find a way to conceal them 100% to where you're going to make sure that those geese finish that day. And to have it a successful hunt, you got to make sure, obviously, that they finish, and you got to make sure that you're going to be able, if you're off the X, you're going to be able to pull those birds to you for whatever reason. So that might mean, hey, instead of us setting up, 5 dozen decoys that day, in order to pull those geese to us or entice them to come over to us, we got to set up 20 dozen, and in the end, that instead of getting out to the field at 4:30, we're out to the field at 2:30. And doing that day in and day out, it starts wearing on you, and it gets tiring. But at the end of the day, you just got to look at the big picture and say, hey, this is the way we have to do it. This is the only way that this is going to be successful for us. And if we don't do it this way, then all this time and all this effort of us driving up to North Dakota 13 hours and scouting all these birds, and then we could go out the next morning and screw it up just because we don't know how to hide camera guys. And that's what you got to change your mindset basically to put yourself in the right position to succeed. But it's a totally different mindset than, say your average guy that would go out and with his buddy and set up on a field with a couple hundred geese in it, and hide his blinds, whatever the case may be. It's just a totally different mindset of how you want to put yourself in a position to make sure that you can kill geese consistently with good quality video. Instead of birds that are flying over the top and
pass shooting them, or birds that are swinging hard on your right or swinging hard on your left. It's very important that all your shooters know to shoot their legs, and that you're really going to try to pull those birds and finish them right in the hole that's giving the cameraman the best position possible to be successful with what he's trying to accomplish.
I absolutely love that you guys are expanding on, one, the scouting, and two, concealment, because we talk about that all the time. And really, I mean, that, like you said, I mean, that's probably 99% of your battle right there. So the scouting and staying hidden, you know, you could take out, you know, a dozen decoys or 20 dozen, but if you take care of those first initial things, you have a pretty good start. So I'm really thankful that you guys hit so much on that. But let me I want to switch gears a little bit here, but you know, and when you see a hunting show on the Outdoor Channel, one of the first things that you think of is, oh, those guys, you know, everything's taken care of for them. You know, they're probably going on guided hunts every day. We can obviously tell by the way you're talking that that is not the case. You know, you guys are saying, you know, they might be 5 miles one way, they might be 5 miles the other way. You know, you're talking about getting there days before to scout. You know, it's a totally different thought process than what a lot of people have, I think. So let me just ask you, do you do a lot of public land? Are you knocking on doors for, you know, farmers? Do you go on a lot of guided hunts? You know, I'm sure that you hit up a couple, but just from the way you guys are talking about scouting, you know, it seems like you put that pressure on yourselves instead of guides.
Yeah, I'll touch on that first. You know, that's the one thing I kind of learned from Logan. Logan is a tremendous waterfowl hunter, and he has really learned from an early age to go out there and put in the work and the effort to scout and have the nerve to go up to a stranger's door, knock on it, introduce yourself, and exchange pleasantries, and, you know, see if you can't get on that land, and, you know, while being subjected to being turned down, and getting back in the truck and going out there and finding the next spot. I learned so much from Logan in that regard, and that is really what the average waterfowl hunter has to do. That's what we truly believe, and that's the kind of story that we want to tell. There are a lot of people who have the fortune to be able to afford to go out on guided hunts, and we certainly don't knock that. We you know, if we had the fortune to do it, we might do it more. No, I'm just kidding. But it's you know, for us, we just want to tell a genuine hunting experience. We do hunt with outfitters from time to time, but that's kind of the prerequisite with us when we go in there and we have those conversations, because it is all part of the business. You know, we've got friends who are outfitters. You know, is that, hey, while we're going to come and hunt with you, we want to make sure that we're showing our viewers that we're doing the work. We don't want you to do the work. You're welcome to join us and shoot some birds with us, but we want to go do the scouting. We want to go make sure that we're setting this up. So if we even do go in there and we fail, it doesn't reflect negatively on anybody else but us. And you know what? There's times that we fail, because that's what happens. Sometimes you fail, and that's genuine, sincere waterfowl hunting. And I think most people can relate to that, instead of just showing them, you know, a segment after segment of killing. Yeah, exactly what Ronnie said. And I think when we put this together and started this, we wanted to really replicate the Heartland brand and feed off of what Heartland Bowhunter has been doing, and be the average guy going out and telling a quality story of what's going on. And we just felt like we couldn't really do that if we did it with outfitters. Yeah, we get outfitters that will call us and say, hey, you know, can you come promote my lodge and help me out and come hunt all the time? And that's great and all. And a lot of these guys that, you know, call us, they have quality places to go hunt, and some of the best in the country. But we grew up scouting and, you know, getting permission on stuff and doing all the work ourselves. And that's what 90% of the average guy out there does. And we want to be able to tell the story and obviously have that reflect on what they're doing, exactly what we're doing. So we like to go out and do the work ourselves. And yeah, we do hunt with outfitters every once in a while, but the outfitters we hunt with are really good friends of ours. For instance, last week we were just down in Kansas with our good buddies Brandon and Jose, and we've been hunting with those guys for 4 or 5 years now. And last year they started an outfitting business just because they wanted to fill some free time. So, and now their business is taken off and it's doing really well for themselves. But
we love to do the stuff on our own. That's what we grew up doing, and we don't want to change anything just because we have a TV show now. I mean, the stuff that we've been doing, since the time we were young is the stuff that we still do to this day. I mean, we all still have the same exact job that we had before, coming along to this. We still have full-time jobs. We have to take off work and take our vacation time just like everybody else does to go on these trips. And really, the hard work pays off in the end. And that's kind of where we stand. We want to be able to tell a quality story and relate to the majority of the hunters out there that we're doing the exact same thing that they're doing on a day in, day out basis, and that, they're very, very capable of doing it as well.
I'm glad to hear you guys say that. And Dan and I go with some friends on a guided trip out to the Eastern Shore every year. And it's as much about spending time with friends as it is about killing birds. But I think as a waterfowl hunter in general, it's sort of in our blood to be involved in all aspects of the hunt. Like, I can't imagine sitting in the truck and letting the outfitter go and throw the decoys out and all that stuff. And then I just show up at the shooting light and, load my gun. Every time we've been out there, we're out there, setting decoys, and after the hunt's over and it's cold and everyone's, ready to call it good, we're out there picking up decoys and helping getting everybody in. Cause, they want to get inside and, go have a beer, whatever it is too. So, I'm really glad to hear that you guys, talk like that, and, how you guys are kind of sort of keeping it real as far as, the average guy is concerned as well. And, you mentioned something earlier, kind of jumping back about the, the concealment of the camera and, and all that kind of stuff. And, last week on our show, we were talking about silhouette decoys, and we were talking about, misconceptions and concerns that people have about hunting over silhouettes. And, it never fails that the first flock of the morning that comes in, if they flare, somebody in the blinds are going to be like, well, the silos, they're shining, they're flaring, that kind of thing. And, like you're saying, more than likely, it's probably something about, our concealment or our hide, something to that effect that's probably not quite right. But I'd like you to talk about a little bit more just about how important is it to be confident of your setup in the field. I mean, you guys obviously have a lot riding on, the time and the effort and the things that you put yourselves in position to have success. What do you do when, that first flock of the morning flares and then another flock flares? And I can imagine that, everybody's got an opinion out there as far as what's going on and what's causing those birds to flare. But just talk about confidence and having faith in the scouting that you've put in and the gear that you're using and the decoys that you're set up over that. Just kind of that whole concept of it's probably not the shine on the decoys or something like that. I mean, certainly it can be, but there's probably other things that you need to reevaluate before you start looking at that kind of stuff in a lot of cases.
That just makes me laugh. The first thing that I just think about is there's always that guy. There's always that guy that as soon as that first flock comes in and flares, oh, there's something wrong with the decoys, or you're calling terrible, or these blinds aren't hidden. There's always that one guy that just is always just he has to get out of his blind and start prancing around, and then next thing you know, that flock behind it's just set up perfectly, and he's out of his blind. He's the reason that he flares the next flock. So it's just funny because I know so many people can relate to that. It's just there's always that one guy that does it, and we have a saying. This sounds really stupid. We have a saying, and Ronnie will laugh at this, but we have a saying we always, when someone's out of the blind and flares birds, for walking around because they're cold or whatever, it always says, get in your blind, Brody, for whatever reason. Like, it doesn't make any sense why we say that. But what you're saying is there's always that one guy, just like I was saying. And at the end of the day, I mean, we always stick to concealment. And that's kind of where we're firm believers of it. The birds want to be in that field. Yes, you're decoying, you're calling, you're flagging, all that stuff plays a role into it. But we personally feel that the biggest thing day in and day out is your concealment. And that's the first thing we look at. If we're sitting in the middle of a cornfield and, things aren't looking right and that first group comes in and flares and, it's right at shooting time, we're like, man, that's not good. That's not good at all. So we get out, shut everybody's blinds and find out where our holes are and fill in those holes with stubble and, maybe pack some more decoys around you, put some decoys in between your blinds. We kind of go off of the one lump hump, so to speak, with our blinds. We take all of our blinds, we throw them all in one row. We've always done that. part of the reason we do it is just because it's easier to catch your camaraderie. It's easier to catch that type of stuff with a camera. But there are some days when we spread them out and we put decoys in between the blinds. But just breaking up that outline any way, shape, or form. I know a lot of guys that the layout blinds, you know, they have that very drastic back that just drops right off, and it creates shadows. I know a lot of guys that take like an army burlap or camouflage that run it behind it and then throw stubble over it. So it's more of a gradual slope with their layout blinds, so that instead of, you know, having those drastic cutoffs and those sharp edges, it's more of a slope, and it kind of looks more like a lump in the field versus, you know, those sharp drastic things that, you know, cast shadows on and whatnot. But yeah, the biggest thing we look at is, you know, we set up that first flock comes in and flares, we all turn to our hide. And once we fix that, usually it turns out right. And obviously you got to move decoys around here and there depending on what the wind's doing that day and make sure that you're finished the birds where you want them to finish. But I would say consistently on a regular basis, what we turn to if something like that were to happen that morning, which it happens a lot, we turn to our hide and get out of the blinds, take the time, even if you miss 2 or 3 different flocks in the morning, take the time to fix the problem and make sure that you are completely hidden before you move forward with your hunt.
Yep. And the only thing I would really add to that, and Logan's spot on, is I think one of the things that a lot of people don't put enough attention or enough attention to detail when it comes to hiding is the actual, and every, you know, ground blind is different, but is actually putting attention to your foot bags, because that's the stuff that when you're getting in and out of your blind, you're kicking it off and on. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it is, but for whatever reason, when people actually stubble in their blinds, that's the place they go last. You ever notice that if you're stubbling your ground blinds, you're doing your doors, you're doing your sides, maybe even the back, and you do your foot bags the last.
Totally
so
guilty
maybe you
of
don't
that.
put as much effort or much. Exactly, you don't put as much detail in there. Well, that's the stuff that you're going to kick off the quickest. That's the stuff that's going to come off the quickest. That's the stuff the hardest to see when you're in the blind, whether or not it's covered or not. So that's just to kind of reiterate on what Logan's already said, is, you know, making sure that you're paying attention to detail.
I got to be honest. I'm listening to you guys laughing or talking. I'm sitting here laughing in my head how I can't wait to tell Dan to get in his blind Brody next time we're out. I swear to you, I'm definitely dropping that on him.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Where that came from is we had a kid in college that his name was Brody, and like literally, if birds stopped flying for 10 seconds, he's out of his blind, walking around like just strung out, ADD, you know, couldn't sit still for anything. And it was getting your, every single hunt, it was getting your blind, Brody. So it just transformed. And we've been saying it for years now. It's just funny every time we say it. So
oh, man, that's great.
We're probably going to coin shirts that say, get in your blind, Brody.
Yeah, there you go.
And you might be the first customer.
For sure. So we've kept you longer than we said we would, but I've got one more question here, and we'll get you guys out of here on this. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, when you're in the field, having somebody sort of in charge that, you know, is calling shots and just, you know, is more of a safety aspect than anything. But, you know, how do you guys decide, you know, who's kind of in charge when you're in the field? Obviously, you've got a big group, a lot of experienced hunters, a lot of guys with a lot of knowledge. You know, when you're setting up in fields and stuff, how do you determine, you know, who's pulling rank? Is there, you got an alpha in the group that's, you know, pulling rank on decoy setups or calling shots, or, you know, does the leader always kind of say the same, or does it kind of vary from hunt to hunt for you guys?
Well, we definitely, Logan, I mean, he's our leader when it comes to that. I really kind of lean on him as partners in this business. You know, I have my role, he has his role, and I really kind of lean on him to kind of be the I guess I'll say the captain, when we're out in the field and we're getting set up. And generally speaking, and there's other times we have others that call the shot depending on who's filming and who's not. But Logan is a very experienced, well-educated waterfowl hunter who knows knows the vision of what we're looking for when we're trying to finish birds, especially for filming. And so we, I feel that as a team, we really lean on him to be that guy.
And I appreciate that, Ronnie. But I would also say that, you know, when you get in group, and obviously you guys have your groups of the guys you like hunting with, the guys you enjoy going out with on a day in, day out basis. And maybe you guys can obviously give me some feedback on this, but I feel like you guys and us, for instance, we go out and we get in a routine. You know, we've been hunting with each other for, 2-3 years now, some of us way longer than that. And, you kind of know your roles and you kind of know what you want to do. For instance, like we spend the majority of our time, everybody gets out, we stubble our blinds, and then we work on decoys. And, you don't need 10 guys working on decoys and one guy stubbling blinds. I know that's how it usually turns out sometimes, but, if you say, hey, one guy, go out, set the decoys, the rest of us will work on hiding ourselves. That's kind of how we are. And as far as calling the shots, it changes on a day in, day out basis. I would say that I call the shots a lot of the times. Brian Crum, another guy on our team, he calls the shots a lot of the times. Joey Palumbo, another guy that hunts with us. It just kind of depends on who is running the cameras, who's not, because we all run cameras. We don't have 2-3 set cameramen. We trade off every single day. If I'm hunting on a Monday, I'm probably going to be filming on a Tuesday, and I might even be filming that following Wednesday, and then maybe I get a hunt again on that Thursday. It's just kind of a trade-off, and you get in a routine. You know who you're hunting with. You know what they feel comfortable doing, what they like doing, what they're good at doing, that type of stuff. So, you like I said, the biggest thing is you get in a routine. You know how people want to hunt and how they want to set decoys up, or how they want to do different stuff. So you kind of feel each other out and know exactly what's going on over time.
So Logan, if you're
the only other thing I was going to add to that was, and I kind of alluded to it in the beginning, a lot of people, there's a lot of ego in hunting and waterfowl hunting, and who's the best caller, and you guys know what I'm talking about, who's the best at setting decoys, and la 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 la. And the cool thing about our group of guys is that we all kind of do know our role. There's no ego. We're all out to do the same thing, or set. We're out to we're out for the same common goal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so it's nice knowing that we're surrounded by a bunch of humble guys who are ultimately just trying to put together a really great television program.
Right. I mean, it definitely helps when everyone's kind of rowing in the same direction, for sure. But Logan, I was going to ask you, being that you're calling the shots a good bit out there, what's your go-to? I mean, are you a cut 'em, take 'em, kill 'em? I mean, what's your go-to call there?
Well, about 2 weeks ago, I sounded like a 13-year-old schoolboy when I made the call.
Take 'em.
I never heard the end of it. I called kill him. I'm usually just a standard like kill him guy. Sometimes I'll repeat myself, kill him,
yeah,
just to reiterate. If the wind's blowing real loud, I'll just keep repeating myself. Ronnie hates it, but I'm a big guy. I sit there and say, don't move. Like if we're not in layout blinds and we're out against, we have one of our sponsors is a company called Fast Strike Blinds, and basically it's just a piece of plastic with bungee cords in it, and it's a really quick, easy way to stubble your blinds when you're on a fence line or a field edge or anything like that. And I'm a guy that sits there and says, don't move. And
so annoying.
Yeah,
and Ronnie's like, so should I move or should I not move? Like,
right. Like I don't know that I'm not supposed to move. Why are you telling me this? If it's a fun day, and things are working out in your favor, and obviously everyone's out there for a good time, we'll sit there and, well, okay, I guess we can let them have it now, that type of deal. And we'll have fun with it. But majority of the time it's just a kill them. It's just a simple kill them or, take them. I know Brian Crum's a cut them type of guy. And I don't know. It's just kind of standard, I guess, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, it all works. It all works.
I've heard some weird ones. I've definitely heard some weird ones in my day. But yeah, it's just pretty standard with us. Well, we don't try to venture out too far.
Yeah, as long as everybody can hear you, it all works the same. So, well, guys, we appreciate you giving us a few minutes here, and we encourage everyone to check out the season 2 premiere on the Outdoor Channel. It's going to premiere at 8:30 on December 29th, 8:30 Eastern time, and then you guys will be on the Outdoor Channel every Monday after that with season 2. So we look forward to checking you out, and we'll certainly be watching. And, we wish you guys the best of luck. And like I said, look forward to this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Check us out on our website at heartlandwaterfowl.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those social media platforms as well. We'd love to engage and interact with anybody who wants to talk waterfowl.
Absolutely. Again, the season 2 premieres on December 29th, 8:30 on the Outdoor Channel. Ronnie, Logan, appreciate your time, guys. And again, best of luck this year.
Hey, same to you guys. Thanks, Josh and Dan. We appreciate it.
All right. We'd like to thank Logan and Ronnie for joining us on the show. And you can always catch them Mondays moving forward here on the Outdoor Channel at 8:30. And their season 2 will premiere on December 29th. So if you haven't had a chance to see them in their first season of Heartland Waterfowl, be sure to check them out for season 2. And I saw recently they announced that they've got Heartland Waterfowl season 1 available on DVD for purchase. So would make a great gift for somebody, the waterfowler in your family. So, Dan, that was, like I said before we got into it, it was one of my favorite interviews we've had. I enjoyed talking with them. And, I could just, you can just tell by the way that they talk that, their blind, their hunts are probably very similar to a lot of people across the country, just, buddies together, cutting up, having a good time, and just, doing what waterfowl's all about.
Yeah. And, I'll admit that I made a lot of assumptions before I talked to them about just thinking about how their setup was. And I couldn't be more wrong. They said they all work full-time jobs. They save up their vacation time to travel around the country. And then I don't care how cool and calm and collected that they're acting on there. They have a ton of pressure on them for one, filming to keep up with Heartland bow hunter guys and to put a quality product out on the Outdoor Channel in that short amount of time. Those guys are true professionals, and to keep on birds and to keep on, you see piles of birds every hunt that they go on. And like they said, if they're out there asking permission, and it just shows you that, you can be doing that too. Like, you just have to take the time and the effort, and, there's some damn good hunters there. So I really enjoyed that, and, they have my full support, and I really appreciate them coming on and enlightening us a little bit.
Yeah, without a question. And, it's clear that they put in the time and the effort that it takes to be, that successful in the field. And, like you said, just goes to show that, with that time and that effort comes great success. And that's, opportunities available to all of us. So again, check them out. Season 2 of Heartland Waterfowl premiering December 29th on the Outdoor Channel at 8:30, and every Monday after that at 8:30. I know I'll certainly be watching. I watched the first season, really enjoyed it. I try to consume every waterfowl product on TV and YouTube, and that I can get my hands on. I just, that's what I, care to watch. I don't really watch much else other than stuff like that on TV anymore. So, I'll be definitely tuning in for that. Okay, let's, before we get into the wrapping up the show here, I wanted to mention this, and I forgot to do it earlier in the show when we were talking about Christmas lists and things like that. So I've been kicking around the idea of a new hobby, and I've mentioned this to you, Dan, before, but, I need a new hobby. Like, I need a hole in the head. I mean, when I tell my wife this, she's going to freaking flip, every time I tell her I have a hobby, that just to her, screams money pit and whatever else, which she's probably got a point. But, I've grown up my entire life as a bass fisherman, grew up on a lake, that kind of thing. And I do enjoy fishing in the spring and the summer and the early fall and that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, right now I got a big itch to try fly fishing. And I got this itch last year and didn't really do anything with it. And I know I've mentioned this to you a couple times, but I've sort of got the itch to do it. And, we've got some trout streams here in Virginia and the mountains and that kind of stuff. But I don't know the first thing about it. And it's just one of those things where it's really intimidating when you read about the size of the rod and the weight of the line and the leaders and all the stuff that goes into this. So just sort of a personal plug here. If you know anything about fly fishing and you can kind of point me in the right direction on a relatively cost-effective way to sort of dip my toe in the water and see if it might be something that I want to, continue to do long term and that kind of stuff, shoot us an email over to info@HP Outdoors, or send us a Facebook message or something. I'd like to hear from anybody that might have some insight that listens to this podcast that might be able to help me out and kind of point me in the right direction on how to get started with that. So, all right, enough about that. But I've wanted to mention that, and I forgot it. I forgot to do it earlier in the show, but I've been wanting to mention that for a couple of weeks. So, what do you think, Dan? Anything else here before we close out the show?
Yeah, I say it just about every week, but I really appreciate any emails that come in, and pictures and whatnot. And there's one guy specifically that he's always emailing us, and we chit chat back and forth, and he's just really excited about getting into waterfowl, and we just got a picture in our email that he killed his first honker, and it happened to be banded. And just seeing that and being not there with him, but I feel like we were a part of it. I mean, it's just a good feeling. It's awesome, and it just justifies why we're doing this, and to help people out, and bring tips here and there, but just to keep in contact with people. I just love it. So, thanks for doing that. And, if you guys have more stories or pictures, keep them coming, and we always email you back. So that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. What are the chances first goose you ever harvest is banded? So, man, congratulations. And unfortunately, you're going to be, probably in line for a lot of letdowns here now, because I assure you, everyone that you shoot will not be banded.
Yeah.
But congratulations on the first one. That is awesome. And this particular guy is a good friend of the show, and we really appreciate him and his support of this show. So, another thing, now that you mentioned that, just before we close here, I was reading over some of those survey responses that we've gotten so far from the show, and to everyone that's done that and that will do that, thank you so much. We really do appreciate the feedback. And, somebody in there, and they're all anonymous, so we don't see your names or anything else. We don't have any of that information. We just see what you input. And someone on there put a comment on there about, the podcast, and essentially they were looking for a hobby and they found a passion. And man, when I read that, it just really resonated with me, because that's really similar to my story too. And, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this show can relate. It's one of those things where you don't really know what you're getting into until it's too late. And that's kind of when we talked about, the Waterfowl 101 and that kind of thing, just, be careful what you wish for, because this, it's such a great thing that it totally takes over. And, it's like all I think about half the time, now. And, when I was in Jamaica, I was talking with some of my family members that don't hunt, and they're all real supportive of hunting and stuff like that. But, we were just talking, and they were like, oh, it's really great that you're involved in that and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, you don't get it. And I said, I've seen things, and I've been a part of things that you'll never experience, because you're not in that type of situation, and you're not up before the sun, and you don't see the woods wake up, or the world wake up like I've got to see it in a duck blind. So for me, when I read that guy's comment about looking for a hobby and found a passion, it really resonated with me, and something that I can relate to. So to all of you that have provided us the feedback, thank you so much, and keep it coming, and we'll do everything that we can on our end to ensure that you guys are happy with the content that we're putting out. So. We're going to go ahead, and you got something else, Dan? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there was someone else wrote in there about, 3.5s and being able to hold the 2s. And I don't know, all I remember is bruised biceps and shoulders. So whoever that was that wrote in there.
All right, we got to pull the curtain back on that a little bit. We've got a good friend of the show, Tim, who listens religiously every episode, and he quote unquote bruises easily, whatever. But we always kid him about not being able to shoot his 3.5-inch loads out of his gun and not getting bruised. So, Tim, thank you for the support, and we appreciate you listening to the show. So, all right, let's put a bow on this one, and we'll wrap it up with this week's parting shot.
Merry Christmas.
So this week's parting shot is exactly like Dan says. It's just wishing everyone out there Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Make sure you take the time, spend with family, recharge the batteries. Take some time off of work, get out and spend some time in the field with family and friends. Eat some good food, exchange gifts, but always never forget the real reason of Christmas and why we celebrate this holiday, and the real meaning of this holiday season. So again, thank you to all of you and your support of this podcast. Dan and I couldn't be more humbled and thankful for everyone that tunes into the show and provides us feedback and has helped us create a show that is helpful for a lot of people across the waterfowling landscape here. And we look forward to continuing with the show and providing that information as we can. So again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. Enjoy the time away from work, hopefully with your family, but also don't forget those that are deployed overseas in harm's way that aren't going to be able to spend this time with their family. So never forget them. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. All right, we hope you enjoyed the profile of the Northern Pintail, and we'd like to thank the guys from Heartland Waterfowl for coming on the show and previewing Season 2 of Heartland Waterfowl TV. You can find on the Outdoor channel Mondays at 8:30. You can find us at info at hpoutdoors.com. If you haven't had a chance to check us out on iTunes, please do so, and feel free to leave us a rating or review as well. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't had a chance, and also if you get a moment, fill out the survey, give us some feedback. We certainly appreciate it. So till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.